Just gonna focus the camera a bit. Okay, part 3 of our table project. I've been waiting all weekend to show you guys how to do this. All right. Hey, Mary from Country Chic Paint here. Thank you for tuning in. Just gonna give people a couple seconds to tune in. Make sure my comments are working. So if anybody is just starting out and you haven't seen the other videos, be sure to check out part 1 and part 2, where I finished up painting this coffee table. Just gonna adjust here. Painted the coffee table in cranberry sauce. That's that beautiful berry red that you're looking at. And then I did the top and an all over glaze with graphite and smoky quartz. So I'll just show you those products here. This is what we covered in part 1 and part 2. Just little samples, barely dipped into this one. So the coffee table can do quite a few layers of paint. All right, so I just want to get in close because we're going to talk about top coat today. That is Country Chic Paint's water-based satin top coat. If you're just tuning in, please give me a little comment. I'd love to know where people are watching from, what you've got planned today. Has anybody ever used top coat before? Let me know in the comments. Always curious. This is a fast-drying top coat. It is it's our most durable top coat. We also offer Clearcoat. They both dry to the same satin finish. I'll compare them in a second here. And just wanted to let you know that we are doing a giveaway at the end of this video, not right at the end. Be sure to comment to win. All I want to know is just what would you use top coat on? That's the question of the day. Be sure to let me know in the comments. Within 24 hours of this video going live, we're going to do a draw, and that lucky winner can get $50 off of our website, countrychicpaint.com or .ca. So be sure to comment. Just going to get started. Going to put my products from earlier off to the side. This is top coat. I've got a quart size. It's well used. Couldn't quite close the lid anymore. Make sure you try and keep those clean as long as possible. I like to just keep the little sealant plastic right on there and just cut a hole. Always try to pour it out. Just work it a little section at a time. Keep a little bowl of it. It is a kind of a milky looking white product, but it does dry clear. We have a great tutorial on our website. So be sure to check that out for step-by-step tips. This is one of those products that you just want to stir, not shake, because that will incorporate bubbles. And for applying, unlike paint, we do recommend you use a sponge of some sort. We offer our own painting sponges. These are palm size, great for paint, primer, and the top coats. If you have the little square craft variety, that works as well. That's what I started out with. I do recommend something like this if you're doing smaller details like the pedestals. Sometimes these don't get in all the nooks and crannies. This gets right up into drawer crevices and everything you need to. You can also use a foam roller, and some folks have used sprayers. So if you're doing lots of pieces or you're a professional painter, go ahead and try it out with a sprayer. So I've got just a little bit of product in here. It is a fast drying product, so I'm going to show a couple tips. We're going to start off with the stained top. Now this has had well over 24 hours to dry. We do recommend your last layer of paint has a full day to dry before you go on with top coat. You want to let all of that moisture in the paint evaporate before sealing everything in with a sealant. Start slow. Some folks are worried about streaking. You can do that if you overwork the product, if you accidentally go over areas that are already drying. So sometimes I recommend, if you're starting out, go this way instead of this way across the table, because you are going to run out of product about halfway. And if you're one of those guys or ladies that like to cover everything in one coat and you can't help yourself to just touch up, you'll find little patches. So let those sit and just catch everything with another coat. So I just have a little bit of product, no bubbles, no nothing. Just going to really lightly pass over in this area. If I've missed areas, I'm going to let them sit. I'm not going to touch them. Might be a little hard to ignore, but we can do it. Now, when I'm getting close to the edge, I'm purposely not connecting those two, because that is where you will see your brush strokes match up with each other. One good way to tell if it's you're applying issues, if you see marks in the exact same way you applied, that is because you're overlapping. So just gotta leave little gaps in between your marks. And it helps to work in daylight and just kind of go at an angle. Again, it's clear, so it can be a little tricky to see where you were applying. 2 thin coats is usually all you need, but for a tabletop or kitchen cabinets, I always like to do maybe a third if I can. Just gonna block the camera for one brief moment. This is my mom's table, so I want to make sure I get it right. A lot on the line here. And making sure that I can see the sheen in the sunlight here. It's a nice sunny day in BC, so I'm very happy to be able to see those. I made sure to keep this lint-free all weekend. I shooed my cat Thomas out of the room because cat hair is definitely no friend to finishing furniture sometimes. Oops. So there's no lint. I keep my sponges pretty clean in a clean drawer. Ooh, brush that off before I seal. And the first coat is just soaking right in really nicely. I haven't gone over yet, doing pretty good. This will dry to a satin finish. So unlike our matte paint, it will have a bit of a shine to it. That is exactly what I'm going for with this one though. I want lots of durability and a nice shine. And the sponge does hold quite a bit, but you really got to make sure you don't go over the same area twice while it's drying. That is the #1 rule of thumb with Clearcoat and Tough Coat and most similar applications like polys. Just make sure you take it slow. Keep a wet edge to the sponge and don't overwork as it's drying. And I'm going to go in with my left hand to see how well I do there. Oop. Really purposely leaving those gaps. I got all day to do this. I can just go in with a second coat, catch any spots that I missed. And I'm just going to go along the sides because I want to seal that too. I did my kitchen table in a similar style. Did a couple coats of smoky quartz and graphite glaze. Let that dry for a bit and then sealed. It's been about a year now and I absolutely love it. You can just use a regular mild cleaner over our water-based top coats like this. Ooh, splashing a bit. And it's pretty durable. So like I said, kitchen cabinets, tabletops, anything that gets a lot of wear and tear, even outdoor decor. So if you have those cool porch chairs that you want to display and you painted them, go ahead and use a bit of Tough Coat. So I'm going to be really careful because I did just go over that and I saw some bubbles. We'll see what happens over there. If you mess up, the best part is you can always paint right over Tough Coat. Now, with a stained top, that gets a little tricky because you are doing many translucent layers. So you might find you have to re-sand areas or even the whole section. Just be really careful when you're doing a stained top. I gotta leave that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think so far. If you would use Tough Coat on anything in particular, if you have a table or a cabinet that really needs some protection, let me know. Remember, it is a giveaway challenge too, so be sure to comment to win. All right. Bonjour. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit. You want to let your first coat of Tough Coat and the second one, let them dry for about an hour in between, maybe 2. Give the first layer, the last layer of course, 24 hours to dry of your paint before you seal. I'm going to use this little sponge here. This is a craft one. I used it before, so I just want to make sure it's really lint free. This will help me with some of these grooves that I'm going to do. And I'll just change the camera so you can see. All right. Lower that a bit. Sorry for the bumpy ride there. Okay. So those are those really nice legs. That's a couple coats of graphite. I didn't put smoky quartz on here because I just wanted a cool tone. Make sure it's lint free. Got a little bit on there. Really wouldn't go over it more than once. You want to use a sponge as opposed to a paintbrush because sometimes paintbrushes will give you some unwanted texture. As this dries so fast, the bristle brush might show those marks. So this is kind of a really easy way to make sure that doesn't happen. And make sure you catch any drips. Clearcoat and Tough Coat will kind of dry, any top coat will really, dry little white or yellow clear bubbles. So just make sure you catch those before they dry. To fix, you can either paint over them or sand off that texture and touch up the paint. Anything like crevices, like this, I'm very careful. I just really quickly get into the corners and the crannies, and I leave it alone. Same with the top, just real light touch-ups, leave it alone. Do this once or twice and you have a really nice durable satin finish. I kind of really like this shiny red look. I did this for a set of nightstands once. My mom loved it so much she wanted it done to this coffee table. And I love these little feet. This is a Fife coffee table, so it's a fancy old American design, European inspired, and I love it painted. Just gonna go in on the front here and show you guys. So there's a little bit of cloudy texture there. You want to catch that before it dries. Oop. So don't put too much pressure in on the sponge. If you find that you're getting little milky lines everywhere, it's because you probably need to just dab out your brush or your sponge, remove some excess, gently wipe that up, and of course let anything dry if it's been more than a couple seconds, because you're really just going to be working the product at that point. And I like to work in little sections, have to, with a fast drying. So just real nicely, try and keep messy edges since you can't go all the way around. I wouldn't do perfect squared off sections or you will see that. It does level, of course, with layers, but want to keep the lines blurry so your finish is more authentic. And the sponge is really working for those crevices. Sometimes you might find the sponge, it's great for painting where you're not worried about overworking so much, but this one will help with something quite similar to this. And still got plenty of top coat in here to go. Ooh. A little goes a long way too, so if you're worried that you're using a lot of tough coat, I'd say you might end up using about half of the jar compared to how much paint you used. So kitchen cabinets, maybe only 1 quart to the 1 quart of paint, maybe just half of that or just under. And again, leaving little gaps, not going over the same area twice. I will flip the piece and catch the underside for a nice uniform finish, but I want to keep all these other areas nice and done. As mentioned, don't want to touch it more than once or twice. Just move on. Oop, had to. Now, Clearcoat is a little different. It's not quite as fast drying, so if you are starting out with a top coat, you still want that satin sheen, you need that protection. Clearcoat takes about 3 to 4 coats, dries a little slower, and is a little easier to use. Less of a learning curve. Dries the same satin finish. Still apply with a sponge. Still wait 24 hours before you seal from the time you finished painting. Keep dry times into account as well. If you're working in a really warm space, that might expedite things. If it's really cold, it might take even longer. Just gotta double check. So I might have to go over these areas that collected tough coat because they are kind of a little cloudy, but that's okay. I've got plenty of graphite to just touch up some of the areas, but this did really, really well. And the tabletop looks good. So here's some more really thin coats. There's barely anything on there, otherwise you do get that extra product collecting in the crevices. You want it to dry nice and dark, not with top coat wedged into the crevice. So keep just a little bit on your sponge. I picked these up at the dollar store. Very, very handy to use. I wouldn't suggest using this for the top of the table. That would be a lot of sections and you will definitely probably see some streaking, probably in the same shape of the sponge. This is very handy. The rounded edge is kind of more natural, a little easier to hold. And gonna go across here. Don't forget, let me know in the comments what you would use tough coat on. Want to get entered in a giveaway for $50 to use on our website. This would be a good time. Get those sides there. So that's just a little example of that. I'm going to do up here too. Make sure you catch any drips. If you work in smaller sections, you have a little easier eye and control over what you're working on. try not to work. I wouldn't use Tough Coat right outside. I would probably bring the piece in to the shade, especially during the summer. It's about to get pretty hot for most places. And just let that dry. Go on to the other side here. Excuse me. So this is already dry to the touch. I just did that maybe 5 minutes ago. I still will wait probably about an hour before I go in with a second coat. See how that looks after another hour, and then do any touch-ups if needed. Usually you don't, but I paint really thin coats because I like that look. There we go, right in there. I'm barely dipping into the jar. Just pour a little bit out at a time. Remember, it does dry fast. And just a touch on the end here. Can't quite see with the angle of the sun. Just gotta change that up. And because it's been a second or so, I'm gonna leave a spot intentionally from there to there because that will blush. There we go. Catch the sides. Sometimes when you're working with rounded designs and details like this, it can be tricky to not notice the drips. Again, if you do see them after everything's dried, just either wait for it all to dry, sand that unwanted texture, or paint over it. Just depends on the look you're going for. If you're trying to build up texture, that's a great way to do it. Just a little on the brush. Got some drips happening over there. And because I can't reach the back, I'm just making sure it's not a neat line, because I will come back to that. Just some tips about Tough Coat. It should only be applied over a water-based product, so I wouldn't recommend waxing and then using Tough Coat. Oil products won't really adhere well underneath. So if you'd like this kind of antique look, use the glaze like I did. Gives a similar look, but you still have that protection. Also great for kitchen cabinets too. Don't really want to apply wax on a kitchen cabinet because that will wear off with time and use. Oh, we got a question here. Does the top coat I'm using stay clear? Does it yellow? Little bubbles, of course. The product itself is kind of a milky liquid, so when that dries, just in the bowl, it will be white or yellow. If it dries on here in a clumpy fashion, it will be a little white. That's just kind of what happens with top coats if you're not careful. The product itself doesn't have any yellowing ingredients, so like polys, it doesn't actually yellow. You can paint it with a white finish, it's perfect. And again, a satin finish, which is really nice. Nice and durable. Catch the sides. Okay, let's take a look. Top looks pretty good so far. I'm not sure if I can capture that texture, but I'll try. Let's see here. It is already pretty dry to the touch. So here's just a little shot of the table. Not sure if you can tell from the sheen, but very, very nice. There is a couple of patches that I've missed that I'm definitely going to be catching again. Just gonna go over with another coat. You can pretty much tell right away if you have encountered bleed through. Or sorry, not bleed through, any streaking, and that didn't happen, so we're good. Bleed through is a totally other thing, tannins in the wood and whatnot. Be sure to check out tutorials for that, we've got them. So that's kind of just the run of it. I don't want to go over this a second time for about an hour though. I'm going to adhere to the dry times because this is a personal project that I'm working on. I'm going to let this sit. I did make sure that I didn't let any drips collect in here. This is notorious where they would happen. Did pretty good with that. Nice and clean. Okay, So I think that's all I have to show you. One more time to get your comments in while we're live. After I post this, you have about 24 hours to get them in. Then we will draw our winner and contact them on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed this. One more time, the question, or just whatever you'd like to comment, was what you would use Tough Coat on. This is great for the cabinets, tabletops, outdoor decor, anything like that. If you have some great chairs, porch chairs. Satin finish, I always get it in a large jar because I use it all the time. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are using it on. And we would love to draw a winner and give you $50 to use on our website. So that's Tough Coat on our table, and finished it over glaze and painted finish. I hope you guys, just gonna get back in the shot. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please subscribe. We always love to keep running these videos. You'll be the first to know when we have another one. Stay tuned for tomorrow. One more. I will be using Soiree, not Sorry, Soiree. That's this lovely mushroom taupe. It's new from last year, our September release. I'm going to be using that over a tiered table tomorrow, so stay tuned. I can't wait to show you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope you guys like this project. I will post finished projects, finished pictures on Facebook pretty soon. Thanks for watching, and you guys have a great day. Happy painting.